How did you react when you read the script for the final scene of series 2?
I read the final script and I have to say, I did cry like a big girl. I sobbed actually. It's extremely. I mean, it's sad on the one hand, and it's actually quite sort of positive on the other, you know. But it's bittersweet, and it's you know, we know them all so well, and we love them all, you know, so much. And just to see, you know, just to actually see the end at last, you know, sort of. And there's been so much speculation about it, even with us, but actually to see what was going to happen and how it was going to end, it was sort of a relief as well, you know. But it's the ending that it deserves, I think, so that's good.
How do you think the audience will react? Do you think they'll cry as well?
I don't know. There's always going to be a certain sort of percentage of the audience that will say, "Well, I saw that coming." You know, oh, that, you know, isn't good enough. That isn't. I mean, of course, people feel very strongly about this show, and that's great. But you know, you can't please everybody all the time. And I hope that the majority of people will enjoy it and appreciate it. For, you know, the writing is so difficult, this show, because every time you know, we have questions all the time, you know, and that's us, and we know it intimately better than anybody else, and still we're questioning, you know, how does that work with that, and how does that work with that, and so the writers are constantly you know, it's trying to keep ahead of it, and it wraps everything up, and so hopefully it'll be a satisfying ending.
And you feel satisfied that it's answered all the questions you've been wondering
I do,
about?
really. I mean, you know, there are a couple of things you say, actually, but what about that, you know, back in episode 2, series 1, Matthew and Ashley, or whatever it may be, you know. But they usually have an answer, so yeah, I do feel satisfied by it. Yeah.
Okay. As for series 3, where do we pick up with that? There's a bit of a twist at the end of series 2.
Yes, there is a twist. We pick up in a very odd place, actually, where we're not sure where we are, whether we've come back, or because the last time at the end of series 2, we saw Alex thinking that she'd woken up in 2008, but had she, because Jean was coming through to her on the monitors and the TV screens. So we sort of pick up. We pick up in Alex's head again, basically.
And we know eventually that we're back in the 80s,
Yes,
or in 1983,
yeah.
this series. What sort of cases do you undertake this series?
We have our usual story of the week, but the main new storyline is DCI Keats, who has come in. Danny May's come in to play Jim Keats, and so that's the main through storyline, and finding out about him, and what does he want, and who he might be, and he's he carries the story right through. Whereas the other guests that we've had, such as Adrian Dunbar, you know, playing Summers last series, he was only in sort of 4 episodes, and Roger Allen was in, I think he was in 4, but Danny goes right the way through. So he's one of our new regulars, and that all gets very explosive. Very explosive.
How does Keats get on with Alex and Jean?
Keats gets on very well with Alex initially. She has no real reason to suspect him of any dodgy dealings early on in the series, but then we see another side to him with Jean, so she's sort of oblivious to that. And he's very different when it comes to Jean, so I wouldn't say they all get on, no.
Okay, and how about Alex and Jean?
Alex and Jean. They're getting on better than they ever have, and until the end of the series, when it all starts to unravel. But yeah, they start to work as a team, and then that's another aspect of Jim Keats. You know, that character comes in and starts to pick away at their relationship. So he's, you know, you start to see that he's quite a dangerous man for them, in all different ways. So, but no, they're great. We've had some lovely stuff to do together, and it's been fantastic.
Okay. Matthew said that this series of Ashes feels like series 5 of Life on Mars. Do you agree with that, and how does that...
No, because I wasn't in Life on Mars, so I have no idea what those series felt like. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't agree necessarily. I'm not. You know, it was very difficult for me. I mean, for me and Motsi, you know, and all the new characters. Life on Mars it's like me watching Spooks and saying, well, that's in some way connected. It isn't. You know, I mean, for me personally, it isn't. I mean, I thought it was absolutely brilliant, but that doesn't mean that it's connected in my head to it, you know. And even Alex, you know, she's supposed to have met Sam, and I watched the show, so I have the same perspective on it as Alex would do, because I only know Sam through watching the show, not because I worked with John playing Sam Tyler, or, you know, it's quite good in that way, because she literally had sort of seen his life on Mars through the TV screen, which is exactly what I'd seen. So no, but I'm sure that's exactly what it feels like to them and to Phil and, you know, the boys.
Do you get the feeling that it is, in, like, story-wise, that it's wrapping up both shows in a sense?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely wrapping up both shows. You know, there's this whole Sam Tyler thread, and because his story didn't really come to a satisfactory end in series 2 of Life on Mars. So, you know, and it's been a fantastic thread to sort of take us through to the end of this series, you know, of Ashes, because it's given Alex a drive. You know, it's given what happened to him, you know. And she wants to get back home. She wants to go back to Molly. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know. So her connecting all the strands about Sam and his life and where he actually ended up, she thinks that's going to lead her to her own, you know, the end of her own destiny. So.
Okay. In a few years' time, when you think back to your Ashes experience, what do you think will stand out as, like, your favourite episode or favourite moment?
We've shot the last scene of this series already, and that was very nice. That will definitely stand out as you know, a sort of special evening. But I think mostly it'll be the funny moments, like in the snooker hall in series 1. Where there were a sort of line of naked guys, you know, and one of them got himself in a bit of trouble. And some of us cast members had to be removed from the set for laughing so much. You know, and Dean and I, especially in series 1, you know, we found it very difficult to be in a scene together without, you know, being bent and sort of laughing our way through it, really. But we've had some very nice times.
Okay, and have you got anything special planned to mark the end of filming and the end of this whole experience?
It's getting incredibly drunk. Next Wednesday we finished filming, and we've got a split day, which means that we finish at 10 o'clock at night. And it's Phil and my birthday on the same day as our last day, which is kind of quite weird, all, you know, in itself. So I'm sure, and we haven't really got any dialogue. So everyone's going to be a bit frightened of the events on that day, but it's quite a nice way to mark it, you know. So we're looking forward to that. Although we are in a crematorium, take the edge off the celebrations.